I see you gather before me. Hungry, terrified, clutching your babes to your breast. Emperor Emir has marched his legions into our lands, laid siege to every fortress from here to the Blue Mountains. Rabid and ravenous, he bites and bites away. Men of the North, you stand at the precipice.
Welcome to our second episode of Game of the Year Watch, brought to you by thegamebolt.com. Joining me for this episode is Josh. How you doing?
Doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. Apart from all the technical difficulties and brain difficulties I've been having. And then on the other chair is Kyle. How are you doing? Fine. We are here to talk about none other than The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. The reason we're talking about this game is because we think it is Game of the Year material. All three of us, in fact, think it's pretty phenomenal. I was going to try to get Jason on because I know he had some technical issues and whatnot, but I kind of just wanted to leave it at the three. I guess it is kind of one-sided, though, because I think we're all pretty much in love with this game for the most part. Yeah?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. But anyway, I say we get started, and what we're just going to start out now is, what were your guys' first impressions? So, I know by now a lot of you guys have probably put in a lot of time into this game, but maybe like if you can kind of break it down to your first 10 hours or so in The Witcher 3, what were your initial impressions?
I know for me personally, you know, you see all the videos and all the trailers coming out before this game released, and it looked phenomenal. And the way the industry has been lately, you see all these games that look fantastic when they're hyped beforehand, and when they come out, they just don't quite deliver on how they looked in the trailers and the pre-release videos and the previews. And this game fully delivered. When I first put it in my system and played it, I was really surprised, you know. I did the tutorial in Kaer Morhen, and that area, just that short little tutorial, was just so beautiful and breathtaking. And it was just such a change of pace. I'd been playing a lot of Bloodborne before The Witcher came out, and to go from Bloodborne to The Witcher was a very drastic change, and I was blown away. So good.
Yeah. Well, first though, I think some people might argue with you that they delivered exactly what they said they would, because I know there were some issues with the graphics and whatnot and how it looked downscaled.
Sure.
It's even apparent if you look at the E3 video or the E3 demo from last year. It does look downscaled, but it's still a gorgeous game. Like when I was playing through it and I compared the two, I was like, I mean, yeah, it's not as good, but it still looks pretty dang good. I'm not complaining, and I'm not even playing it on PC. I'm playing it on my PlayStation 4.
Yeah, me too. I guess to that argument, I would just say all the videos that I've seen ahead of time, I'm kind of new to the Witcher franchise. I know this game was announced a few years ago, but it wasn't until the last couple of months, probably about January or so, that I really started paying attention to this game. So I guess when I talk about the pre-release videos and previews, I'm talking like very recent videos.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I didn't even start paying attention to the game until the gameplay reveal trailer.
Right when I knew this was coming out, I was like kind of excited because I played the other Witcher games, and you know, like I enjoyed them, but I wasn't the biggest fan. Well, actually, I only played 2. But then, yeah, like you, once they revealed the gameplay, I was like, all right, this game should definitely be on my radar. And when I first started playing this game, to be honest, I wasn't that impressed. I mean, I was impressed by it technically, but I was like, I don't know if this game's for me. And then I kept playing more, and then all of a sudden it just clicked, and I was like, this game is really, really good. This is one of the best games I've played in years. This is, to quote my own review, it is a once in a lifetime game. At least that's how it feels to me.
That's definitely.
What were your first impressions, Kyle?
Well, when I first booted up the game, and I went for a tutorial on Kaer Morhen, like everybody else did who played the game, of course. I got to White Orchard, and I spent like probably like 6 hours in that area just doing everything there was to do, and it was pretty awesome. And just going around White Orchard and doing side quests and finding like all the treasure chests and hidden messages, right? Well, hidden treasure maps and stuff. And I enjoyed it. And when I got to when I eventually got to Velen, it's just like the whole world's opened up, and it's like kind of overwhelming at first because you have like so many question marks in Velen and so much stuff to do in Velen. It's kind of overwhelming, but you eventually get used to it. And it hit me in the face to what you free with the first impressions because it made me want to keep playing the game.
Yeah, I think that is the one thing, is that even though it was kind of overwhelming, is that there was always a reason why I wanted to keep playing. Whether it be the story at parts, whether it be like a mission I was doing, whether it be some plot twist, but there was always something that was there. Like even if I wasn't so into one aspect of it, there was still something that would kept pulling me back in. And for the first 10 hours, that was mostly the atmosphere and the style of the game because it's gorgeous and yeah. So then, kind of changing gears a little bit. Have you guys completed the game? First off.
I got towards the end, but I haven't finished yet. No.
Okay.
I'm nowhere close. I've done a lot of exploring.
I got to the end and I restarted.
Yeah. You had an interesting experience with that. But so then we won't go into near the end stuff. But your impressions of the story so far. What do you guys think of it? I mean, to me, it feels very much like a wild goose chase, and at times it did get a little bit slow. But when it did get slow, I mean, I just do a side quest, and I'm like, all right, this is interesting. Now it's time for me to go back to the story, you know?
I'll do everything I can.
Yeah, the story is downright glorious. Quoted by Johnny there. But yeah, going through the story, especially in Velen and stuff, with like the Baron and Kira Metz and stuff, that was probably like one of the highlights of the story for me, at least. I haven't beaten the game, of course, so I don't know what's up with that.
Yeah, the Baron questline was magnificent. It was fantastic. It was like one of the most well written sequences in an RPG, and it was like, and it was amazing how that character was so well crafted, and he was only in it for 10% of the game.
Yeah, and I was upset after that quest, so a lot of the parts in the story had me like upset and everything.
Yeah.
And like emotionally distraught because it's just like one bad thing after another in the story, and just kind of eventually get used to it and stuff. But it's full throttle throughout the whole story. You're looking for Ciri, and you eventually find Ciri, of course, and it just keeps going from there.
Yeah, I would say in regards to the story and how far I am, so far it's okay. The main quest line, I mean, it's essentially, like you said, Jake, it's a wild goose chase. It's just Geralt trying to find Yennefer and Ciri, or at least he finds Yennefer very early on, and then he's gonna eventually try and find her again. But for me, what's impressed me so much about the story, and we'll take the Bloody Baron questline as an example, that's a part of a main quest that you have to encounter to progress through the main story, but it branches off into its own thing. And to me, I think that's very fascinating how a main questline can go into a side quest that you don't have to finish the Bloody Baron storyline if you don't want to. But
yeah,
that's one of the great things about this game so far, is it is well worth your time to see these side quests through to the end because they're just fantastically well written.
Yeah, the end of the Baron side quest was completely optional. You could have just went to Novigrad without paying any attention to the end of his story.
So did all you guys finish the Baron's little side quest sort of thing?
Yeah.
What was your guys' ending? How did that end up for you?
I saved what was that creature called that you had to? Do you guys remember? There's a part of it where you can either walk with him and try and bury that creature so everything
Oh,
works out.
yeah, okay. I don't remember what it's called, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That part of that quest gave me the hardest time because for whatever reason I was trying to protect him, and you start getting attacked by ghouls, and for whatever reason I had the hardest time with those ghouls. And then I tried the other route where you have to fight that creature, and I couldn't beat that either. But eventually I saw that quest through to the end. I did protect him and got to bury it. I think that leads to the good ending of that quest line, I think.
No, because that's what I did. And he
Oh,
hung
okay.
himself.
Well, then never mind.
It ended with him hanging himself. So,
Yeah. But I don't know.
because yeah, there's like a whole nother thing where you try to get his family back, and then some stuff happens, and it's not a happy ending. But apparently, he can live. I think.
Yeah, about that. I did both options because I played twice through it. But neither ending is a good ending. And personally, I think that the ending where he does hang himself is the better ending, even though in the other ending he does live.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things with this game is that one of the things why I was in love with this game is that there isn't like a good choice and a bad choice. There's just a choice. And I think that's
Right,
the one
there's no
thing that
red or
video games
blue.
haven't really nailed down yet. I mean, you've got Mass Effect, which, to be fair, is one of my favorite games of all time. But you've
Yeah.
got I mean, even in some cases, it like was glowing blue. It's like, here's the good thing and here's the bad thing. And in this, it was just like, it's like,
It was so gray.
yeah, I mean, you don't know if you're making the right choice, the good choice. A lot of times it was bad no matter what. I mean, but sometimes what was great about it is that every now and then you would not do something right, but you'd follow your instincts and things would end up okay. And I think that was one of the most powerful things about this game.
Yeah, the bad choices in this game just kind of make sense in this world because it's war. There's a war going on and everything. So the bad choices that you are forced to make just make sense. It wouldn't make sense to have like a blue choice to go with because it just doesn't really comply with both Geralt and his personality and the world that he's living in.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd agree.
Right.
I mean, that is why I'm absolutely in love with this game is just because of the choice. And I mean, games have been doing this for a long time, but for some reason, the way they handle it in here is just it's so much better than anything else.
Yeah, and I love how your choices impact the world in ways that will shock you.
Yeah.
I was going to mention one of my favorite little side quests in the game that happens fairly early. I'm pretty sure it's in White Orchard. There's the dwarf in White Orchard who's like the blacksmith,
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
his shop is burned down. And if you want to, you can go find the guy who burned down his shop for him. And I found the guy, and he's drunk, he's all hungover, he had burned the thing down in a drunken stupor, and he says, I'll pay you money, we can forget the whole thing, or you can turn me in. And I turned him in thinking he's going to go to jail or whatnot, and they just hang him right there on the spot. So I was like, whoa. That escalated quickly.
So I'm gonna skip a couple of these so we can go on to this topic, which I'm looking forward to. Is what is your guys' favorite moment you've had, favorite part? Just one memory in particular that you think really either encapsulates this game or one that was just really entertaining, funny, etc. Kyle, do you want to start?
Sure. I guess my favorite memory would be when you finally do find Siri. You have this if you play the choices right, of course. You just have this like emotional conversation between Geralt and Ciri at that point, and it was like they were like discussing things, talking about experience they had while they hadn't seen each other, and it was like so. I was like emotionally invested at that part, and it was just like I've never seen nothing like that in a game before, where I actually care about the characters deeply, and I like them talking to each other because it's just it was good, and that'd probably be like my favorite part in the game that I remember. Is just Geralt finding Ciri and having an emotional conversation between each other.
What about you, Josh?
I was gonna say that moment. That is a big moment because I mentioned last week on the Game Bolt podcast how I had read the Witcher novels before I played the game, and the moment where Geralt finds Ciri is such an emotional moment, especially for me, having read those novels and seen. I know the story of how Geralt gets Ciri and how he raises her and whatnot, and seeing them come together after so many years apart was emotional. But my personal favorite moment, it might seem kind of, I don't know, it might seem kind of easy, like an easy pick for me personally. I mentioned earlier how I was so blown away by that tutorial scene in Kaer Morhen. That's a very simple, very linear portion of the game that you don't even have to play if you know what you're doing. But again, for me being a fan of the novels and having read the books and actually getting to see Kaer Morhen brought to life in just such incredible detail, that was really cool to me. I don't think I've ever been more of a bigger fan of The Witcher than when I actually stepped into Kaer Morhen for the first time. I just thought that was really cool.
That was pretty cool. I wish I read the books leading up to this. I think I'll read the books at some point. Maybe I'll see if I can get it before. Get it for this summer or something like that. I think for me, though, there's a couple. One's a whole long story that I don't really feel like telling because I've already told it so many times. But I think one of my favorite parts is when you first get to the Skellige Islands, or Skellige Isles. You've been wandering around this massive world, and then you get to the Skellige Isles, and you're like, there's a whole nother massive world here. And it opens up even more, and it just kind of goes to show you how big this game is. And it was just one of those moments like when you leave the vault in Fallout 3 the first time, and it felt like that to me. It was just like, oh my gosh, there is still so much more to this game. I've hardly scratched the surface.
Yeah, you're not alone in that, because I've seen a lot of people on Twitter and on Facebook posting images of when they first get to Skellige. You know, I saw one guy on Facebook who was like, I've already put 50 hours into this game and I just got to Skellige, and it's like, and he's just like, this game is so huge. I mean, that's one of those moments in The Witcher where you realize just how big the game is.
Yeah, I was 80 hours when I first went to Skellige.
Oh, man.
But yeah, I think that blew me. It reminded me a lot of in Red Dead Redemption when you first get to Mexico.
Yeah.
But anyway, for time's sake, we're going to move on to the final, arguably most important topic is why should this be considered for Game of the Year? Kyle, why don't you kick it off?
Why
Keep it short.
should be considered as Game of the Year?
Keep it short,
because
concise.
it has great graphics, has an amazing story, great atmosphere, and just overall a great world that I love being a part of, and that's why I believe that Witcher 3 is definitely Game of the Year material.
Nice. And Josh, what about you?
I was just going to say that I remember last year we all thought 2014 was going to be this incredible year for gaming, the first big year for next generation gaming, and a lot of those big experiences got pushed into 2015, Battlefield and Evolve, and here we are within the first half of 2015. We've already got a couple fantastic experiences, and The Witcher is one of those fantastic experiences. It's so big, and it has a lot of complicated systems. You got to give it time to breathe, if you will. You have to get used to it, but once you do, it's really impressive the way CD Projekt Red has made the whole game fit so intricately together. It's just a fantastic experience. I don't think anyone should miss out on it.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I agree literally entirely with what you guys said. I think the biggest reason for me, though, is that I've never seen a game handle storytelling this well.
Yeah.
Not even, and I touched on it before, but just the way they handle player choice is incredible. Like I could write so much about that. I think I will actually.
Oh yeah.
It's game changing.
Yeah,
it is.
Because it's like it's weird that it took people this long. It took developers this long to like kind of figure out that maybe having a good choice and a bad choice isn't good. Just having a choice is what's really interesting, and I think it paid off a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and also the scope of this game is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so huge. Anywhere you can see, you can go.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that just about wraps up our Game of the Year watch for The Witcher. Have you played The Witcher? If so, let us know what you think of it in the comments below, and if you think it deserves Game of the Year watch status. And if you enjoyed this, be sure to check out www.thegamebolt.com for news, updates, and all sorts of E3 goodness, which will be coming soon. Hopefully this gets up before then. If not, I hope you enjoyed our E3 goodness. Kyle, where can people find you on Twitter?
Clockdown RME.
And Josh?
I'm at JLund2010.
And you can find me at Dake Jecker. See you guys next time.
See ya.
See ya.
But do you know what's cooler than basketball? Video games. So how do you make a game that basketball fans can enjoy and video game fans can enjoy? Well, I know one way to not do it. Shaq Fu! If you've never heard of Shaq Fu, consider yourself blessed by the angels above.